Hi, friends. Welcome to Talking with Spanish People. And physical pain makes me pretty useless. I have been hurting for the last few days, still hurting on the bottom of my mouth here. I took ibuprofen and a couple of Tylenols, and hopefully I'll feel better in a little while. I've been sleeping and resting and hurting. I don't know if I heal more slowly now, but I'm older. That probably is part of it, but the top seems to be pain-free, but the bottom, what seems to hurt more than anything else is this tooth that they shaved down, not the spots where they pulled them out. Well, they're out. I got 8 teeth out, but I still have a fair amount of pain on the bottom left. So I find I can't really do anything when I'm in pain. It's like I just want to sleep. I want to lie down, take Tylenol PM or whatever, and just So anyway, I didn't just live stream to complain. I live streamed partially to give everybody an update as to where I've been and what's going on and so forth. I'm hopeful that the pill I just took will kick in pretty quick, and I will cease to feel the pain for a while. My dad bought a car the other day. He bought a used car, used Mini. He got a great deal on it. It had 12,000 miles on it. 2013. He paid $11,000 for it. That's what I call a good deal. So anyway, now our family has a white Mini Cooper and a black Mini Cooper, as well as the Ford. Time for the first bong rip of the day. It's like everything's a little cheap and dirty when you're in pain. It's like I don't even really feel like this bong rip, but one has to do what one has to do, obviously. Someone suggested to me that too much suction while your mouth is healing is bad. I might get something called like dry thrombone or something. I'm feeling in pain still. I expected to be completely over this by now. Dry socket, yeah. Because every time I think of it as dry trombone for some reason. Well, I'm taking the antibiotics. I'm taking the pills they give me and stuff, so this can't continue to hurt forever. I am healing up, but it still hurts. It's fucking frustrating. The top doesn't really. The top half feels fine, but the bottom half is painful. plus side, I'm pretty pleased with this weed, which is called garlic cookies. My clients were nice enough to bring by a bunch of soft breads for me to eat. Yes, Winston's mom, thank you for that. I meant to talk about that as well. Winston's mom sent us a toaster with some various spreads to put on things, including Nutella. The funny thing was, my dad went off to run errands. I received the package, opened it. I saw it was a toaster. My dad came back from errands. Of course, he had a toaster. And he had bought us. So I'm like, well, Dad, you're going to have to return that toaster because a friend of mine from the internet sent me one as a present. And he's like, well, which toaster is better? I'm like, it doesn't matter, Dad, because you can return that toaster. You don't want to return this one. He seemed slightly annoyed. No, we're using the one you got us. We got it right in here, right next to the. Yeah, you can see it right there. See it between the microwave and the coffee creamer. I mean, I don't doubt that there is a difference in quality of toasters, but it's not really that complex a machine, you know. It's you push the button down, toast comes up, you know. It fits beautifully in our spot too, once as well. Fits perfectly where we'd want it to go. It's nice and lean. It is retro. I like the color too. You're not retro, Winston's mom. You're like me. You're vintage. Okay. Old people aren't retro, they're vintage. Yeah, I've been trying to sleep and dream the day away while I get better, but it's taken a little bit longer than I expected for me to feel up to doing anything. Of course, this coincided with Sleepy Week, but I wasn't really that sleepy because I hadn't really lost that much sleep during this binge period because I didn't really binge that hard. Vintage is authentic. Retro is imitation. You can tell when I'm really rested, though, when I don't have this thing. See this little thing here? Sure, women find it sexy. Incredibly sexy. But nevertheless, I used it as a gauge to see how well rested I am. When I'm fully rested, this is like that. But it only stays like that for like 5 minutes. Then I'm not rested fully all the way anymore. Then it gets back to being like this. When I'm really super unrested, it's like. Anyway, Rach and I one of the nice things about Rachel is her slugginess seems to just naturally match mine. The more sluggy I get, the more sluggy she gets. The less sluggy I get, the less sluggy she gets. So maybe that's an FE tool thing. I don't know. But she's been just as sluggish as me. She's still sleeping. And we have slept and stuff. Of course, her period coincides with this as well. She's on her menstrual period right now, which apparently makes women feel fussy or something. I don't know. She's not fussy. She's just not energetic. I totally get Andrew Luck. I believe Andrew Luck to be an ENTP, retiring for the reasons he did, which is he couldn't stand the ongoing physical discomfort. I can't stand ongoing physical discomfort. That's also why Hunter S. Thompson killed himself. Was he got to a point where his physical state of being was no longer sustainably comfortable, and he couldn't do what he wanted. He couldn't do the drugs he wanted. He couldn't smoke what he wanted, and he was hobbled, So he ended up killing himself. But all the people who, it's like, of all the suicides in the world, that's a suicide I can understand, because he lived his whole life as this artistic hedonist, and then he lost the physical ability to be himself anymore. So it's like, okay, he's super old, he's hurting all over. I get it, kind of, because as another 4 slot SI person, I really dislike discomfort. I just cannot stand it. It's like these last few days have been difficult for me because I just want to drug myself to sleep until I'm all better, He's probably in Mensa, Winston's mom. INTJs seem to like Mensa. How would you piss off a bunch of INTJs? That's a tricky one, because they each have their own thing that's precious. Yeah, I've been doing the gargling. I've been doing the pill taking. I've been doing everything as indicated. You've had multiple organ failures. Jesus Christ, Genexia, what happened to you? Broken back? I had a few teeth pulled out. The shit I'm whining about and the shit you're talking about are a whole different level, okay? I'm whining. You're talking about real problems. I just have to admit it. When I'm in discomfort, I whine a lot. I really don't like being in discomfort. I don't like being tired. I don't like being hungry. I don't like being in pain. I am a bit of a baby, really. And the thing is, I'm accustomed to always feeling good. Like, I did have an appendectomy. I did have that. I had my appendix taken out. I don't know what pyloric stenosis is. You don't need a gallbladder anyway. It just makes you angry. That's where your goal comes from. How did you puncture your lung? What's a discectomy? I don't even know what those things are. I started whining about having a couple of teeth pulled and find out Gen X Seal is a career daredevil or something. Like, seriously, are you, I had a thing called bleps? What's bleps? I haven't heard of it. Sounds like a made-up disease. I got the bleps. The thing is, by and large, really? I'm supposed to have a bong smoker? I'm joking. Huh. Well, I've been smoking bongers for a long time. Without any problems, so. That's what you get at yourself for being wrong. You earn every bit of the scorn you purchase with your wrongness. My dad got a T-shirt the other day in Palm Desert. It says it looks like a homemade T-shirt, like somebody ironed on the letters. I don't know where he got it, but it says I can't believe how old people my age are. Isn't that a funny shirt? Like, I was like, hey, Dad, where'd you get that shirt? That's kind of a funny shirt. You know, that's kind of a clever shirt. Oh, I got it in Palm Desert. Which still doesn't explain anything. Where is he shopping at a store that has this apparently homemade shirt? He must have gotten it at a thrift store. Never make any claims at herself. Only ask questions. You could become like a British person, always asking questions, even when you're making statements. You know? Have you considered that? Being British? Yes. Yes. Exactly. You're finally winning at yourself. Now you're winning. You were losing and now you're winning. That's a big turnaround right there. It's a 180-degree turnaround. How'd you break your back? Doing something stupid? Did you do something stupid to break your back? Like some STP stupid shit? Like flip a BMX bike or something? Probably. How did the STP break his back? It should be a game show called "How Did the STP Break His?" And you get a bunch of ISTPs and ESTPs on. They say, "Well, I broke my, clavicle." How did you break it? Ooh, I was all the contestants right there. Skateboarding, snowboarding, skydiving, wrestling. Oh, wrestling. Are you sure I didn't just break it during wrestling practice? If you have a job hauling drywall, why do you have wrestling practice afterwards? Wouldn't hauling drywall give you enough exercise for the day? I threw my back out at a job one time. I was working for the county, and I had determined that because most people working in this field where I was working in, it was a county school for profoundly retarded people. Most of them were non-ambulatory. So they're mostly women working in this place. So I could basically kill the morning pretty easily and earn a lot of points with people by walking around and lifting all the kids for them that they wanted to lift onto the table, lift them off the table, And people thought this was an important job. It's like, okay, I can do this no problem. I can lift these people. They're not that heavy. I know how to lift with my legs. And I did this day after day after day. I went around and lifted all the people. Basically, got me out of doing less pleasant work. And so I was happy to do it. And they thought that I was doing something more important. So it worked out great, right? Well, and it did for a long time until one day I threw out my back doing it. I lifted a kid wrong, and I was like, oh, and then for like 3 days afterwards, I was walking like this. I couldn't stand up straight. But then it got better, and I started lifting up the kids again, and it was fine. It was at that job as well where I learned a permanent cure for warts. Okay? I had a wart on my arm, one of these two. I think it was right here. You can still see a little white spot where it used to be. I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not. But I had a wart right there. And the nurse at the school said, I heard about this thing. I want to try it. Can you tape a piece of aloe vera onto your wart and leave it there like for a few days? Like just replace it, keep one there for a few days. I did, and sure enough, the wart blew up big, fell off, and never came back. And this is a wart that I had frozen off like 10 times prior to that at the doctor, and it just kept coming back. Aloe vera kills warts. If you have a wart somewhere where you can tape aloe vera onto it easily, it will kill that whatever virus it is that grows a wart, and you'll never grow one again there. Isn't that interesting? How do you get warts? Well, the answer is you touch a toad. Anytime you touch a toad, you get a wart. Obviously, at some point, I don't remember, I had touched a wart, a toad with the middle of my arm there. That's how I got a wart there. But after that happened, I decided to try it on a mole as well. It doesn't work on moles. It does work on warts. It doesn't work on moles. Isn't that interesting? I find that fascinating that this school nurse had heard this thing saw that I had a wart, or I'd mentioned it or something, or she saw it, or I don't know. Maybe I said to her, I got to go get this thing frozen off again. And she had heard this thing about aloe maybe killing warts, and she wanted to test it. She had me experiment, and it totally worked. I never had to get it frozen off again. Isn't that great? That's like when knowledge is powerful, when you solve a problem that was persistent and it's gone for good. And then pretty soon you forget that you used to have this persistent problem, which is kind of a shame, because you remember like, wow, I used to have this persistent problem and now I don't. And that's a huge, big difference. It'd be nice if it worked for moles too, huh? Hi, Rachel, darling. It's been a while since we've engaged with the people, huh? I taped a leaf to my arm, Genexial, but I cut off the bottom half of the leaf so that it was, it was the mushy part touching. So, okay, well, Winston's mom heard that if you put duct tape over a wart, it falls off. It may be then simply that if you deny a wart access to oxygen from outside, maybe that's what kills it. I don't know. I just taped a piece of a leaf onto my arm. I had a convenient place. If you have a really inconvenient place, like on your cheek or something, it's got to be more of a ridiculous show, TI propaganda. That it might just be denying it oxygen. That's TI propaganda. I don't know what TI propaganda you're referring to here, but I think this is a TE matter here. How to solve warts. Okay, I consider it a straight up TE matter. She wanted to check. She experimented on me. It worked. I concluded that therefore it works always. So you might, there's nothing TI about that at all. It was on there for a few days. I was diligent. I wanted to really give it a full test. So I leave it on there during the day, and then I'd replace it after a shower. And I did it for a few days. And then, I took it off finally. Well, I noticed before I took it off finally that it was blowing up big. Like it gets all... I mean, that's an NETI thing that to go, well, it might be, yeah. It's generally an NETI thing. The TI being, here's how it could be wrong. The NE being, here's another possibility that also explains it. I mean, in that case, it didn't take a huge NE leap because you're covering it in both instances. But yeah, and then after I took it off finally, it dried up, shriveled up, dried up, and fell off, and it was gone forever. So anyway, I don't know about the duct tape idea, but I will vouch that it worked for me, the aloe, for sure. If you have a wart on your arm or something, try it. So, and I also like the fact that the school nurse was interested in testing what you might call a, what do they call that? Like kind of medicine that's just like natural stuff. Heliographic or something. Herself, that's not a good plan. Huh. Holistic, that's what it's called. Holistic medicine. I was pleased that she was interested in trying something that was outside of her dominant paradigm. As a registered nurse, her dominant paradigm is Western medicine. So I like it when natural cures do work, and I don't like the tendency of people to either be nutty about natural cures, like, oh no, only natural cures, or nutty against them. That's all claptrap and nonsense. I don't like either of those things, right? I like the idea of natural cures working, but I want them to actually work. So I just think, it's not like the freezing the board off didn't work. Freezing the board off did get rid of the board. It just didn't stop it from coming back. Yeah, and bottom. Top and bottom molars got pulled, but my bottom, the bottom half of my mouth still hurts. The top half of my mouth feels fine now. It's like the top's healed, but part of the reason why the bottom still hurts is because they didn't just pull out 4 teeth from the bottom. They also shaved down this tooth here. And it's this shaved down tooth, I think, that hurts mostly because they exposed a nerve or something. I don't know why they shaved it down. I think they're planning on maybe putting no hole in my sinus. I can smoke just fine. You sound like you've got a messed up body, dude. I don't know what to tell you. One of these days, Sean. I'm frustrated right now. I'm frustrated because I feel like I've been like an injured sports player for about a month now, due to my mouth, and it's causing me to play at much less than 100%. And people are like, well, what about this? What about this? I'm like, hey, I'm proud of myself for live streaming right now. I mean, like when I'm not feeling well in any way, shape, or form. Oh, I didn't get wisdom teeth pulled out. I got molars pulled out, but not wisdom teeth. And when I did get my wisdom teeth pulled out, I wasn't a smoker then. So I don't know. What you call relevant is just an unhealthy attachment to the past, rough version of an ENFJ. TWFP ENFJ. Yeah, basically. Well, you can really see how NI polar works with what happened when my dad bought this car from this guy. So he said, I'm going to go buy a car. You want to go with me? This is the sort of thing my dad just springs on me periodically, right? And I go, okay, sure, let's go. So Rachel and I get in the car, and he drives like 2 blocks away to somebody's house that has a car for sale in front of it, here in this very nice area of Arcadia. And the gentleman who comes out is as respectable a citizen as you can possibly imagine, right? This car has 12,000 miles on it, despite being a 2013. And every single NIQ that there could possibly be in the world says, this guy's kosher. This is all above board. There's nothing to worry about here. We live a couple blocks from the guy. He owns a home in the same neighborhood. Every indication imaginable says there's nothing shady about this. And so the guy suggests my dad says, as he always does when he wants to buy a used car, I want to have my guy check it out before I buy it, which is ESTJ stuff, which is fine. And the other guy says, well, I do have a scheduled oil change for it tomorrow, and I can have my guy check it out. Here's his name. Here's he's here in Arcadia. We've been going to him for years. And I chimed in, I'm sure that guy's great, Dad. And my dad said, look at me, you have no way of knowing that. And I just throw my hands and just turn around and walk away. It's like, you can't explain NI, you can't explain it. It doesn't explain, right? I can't explain to my dad, I am using universal cues here, Dad, not experiential cues. You're right. I have no way of personally knowing that guy's mechanic is going to be fine. You're right. I have no personal way of knowing that, but nevertheless, I am correct, because just read all the fucking cues here. It's like, come on. Yeah, wouldn't it be interesting if instead of manliness being designated by chest hair, it was designated by chest warts? And women would be like, oh my God, your chest is so warty. Yeah, he's so rational about a lot of things. He just doesn't believe in universal cues, basically. So, if everything checks out intuitively, that doesn't mean shit to him. He likes to put it as, well, you're an optimist and I'm a pessimist, Eric. But I'm not accusing him of being pessimistic. I'm accusing him of preparing for impossibilities. There is something irrational about the amount of insurance my dad has. It's not a rational thing to have that much insurance. He's got everything insured. He's got everything insured to the max. It's like, Dad, when have you ever used this insurance? Of course, when there comes to be a time to use the insurance, he doesn't want to use it. Because why? That'll raise the insurance premiums. There's nothing logical about this at all. It's like, what are you paying them for? Well, the answer is like the commercials say. He's paying them for peace of mind. If he could get insurance, he would get it. So it's, he's very rational in some sense about his processes. He does the things that you're supposed to do to do things right. But if the thing you're supposed to do things right is actually stupid, he's probably not going to notice that. It's weird because my kind of intelligence is so pointless from my dad's perspective. It's just a bunch of speculation. It's like purposeless speculation. No, Sean O'Neill, manliness is having the most warts on your chest. Okay? I think we've established that now. My chest is just one giant wart. That's what makes me so manly. You're getting some warts there, don't worry. Slowly but surely, you're joining me as a warty chest. I don't beat my chest because there's a big wart there and it would hurt. That's why I don't beat my chest. Yeah, well, in the olden days, they had two expressions for an older person in their tribe: a gray beard or a warty chest. Yeah, well, that's partly being bored with arguments too. You know, I am bored with arguments in general. Like, I don't. Most of the arguments I have around here are frustrating more than they are engaging. Um, I've learned with this YouTube channel certain things I don't want to argue about. Like, I really don't like arguing about type because we're operating from different pages of a similar book. It's not even the same book, you know? And so it makes it really difficult to have a meaningful conversation about it with people who don't agree on the basic frame of reference. But yeah, I've had that experience in relationships mostly, where I go, yeah, and then my partner is flustered, and I go, okay, now you say yeah. This is, that was a softball, baby. Come on. Well, you know, life's a funny thing when you spend so much of it arguing or thinking about arguments or being right or whatever. It's like all it takes is one trip to the dentist office to make you go, just want to watch TV. STJ's mellow. STPs probably grow more conservative. I think most NTPs don't make it. You know, they end up at 49, broken or lost in one way or another. I find myself very fortunate because, as I've said many times before, for whatever reason, my life got set on easy mode. You know, it's like I've been safe to make a lot of mistakes. I had a safety net, and a lot of people don't. You know, I also seemed to always be very good at walking right next to the edge and knowing when it was time to go away from the edge. I mean, the steel man thing is not just a tactic, okay? It can be used as a tactic, sure, but in debate, it's mostly used as a tactic in competition debate in the last speech that you make. In the last speech you make, then you say, I made this argument. They made this argument, which failed. We know it failed because they could have made this argument, or this argument, each of which would have been better. That's how you use it in competition debate. And you save it for the last speech because you don't want to actually let them co-opt those arguments, right? But when I use it in a regular life, I'm actually trying to move things along, you know? It's like I'm habituated to not doing the other person's work for them, but that's a competition frame of reference, you know? It's like, it's not a dialectic frame of reference. And I'd like to move more towards dialectic and away from rhetoric in general, because I think rhetoric's part of the problem. You know, it's like people love defeating their enemies, and one way you can do that is through argumentation. But defeating their enemies is the problem, It's like, and it's a problem for me too. I have to learn to not care about defeating my enemies, quote unquote, to not have enemies, to realize that at least in this format of political discussion, we should, not just as Americans, obviously, but even the whole world should be on the same basic team. Because truth, justice, and the American way are the human ideal. Now, America may not uphold that ideal anywhere close to upholding that ideal. That's fine. I'm going to concede that without a second's doubt. But it does not change the fact that individualism, truth, justice, and the American way are the universal human ideal. So, I'm going to do my best to uphold it and to make it a reality for the world, It's so cut and dry. Good and evil are real things. And I am on the side of good and opposed to evil. And I know almost everybody I engage with is the same way. We just have different understandings sometimes of what comprises good and evil. There are very few people in the world who are like, I'm evil. I like being evil. This is how I am. I like to see suffering. I am a fan of torture and abuse. Very few people are openly, self-knowingly evil, right? You just don't hear that from people very often. So in that regard, we're all on the same team. And all this infighting and shit. Well, my point is, let's say Jen Exiel and I were to get into an argument about something. It wouldn't change the fact that no matter how strongly we disagreed about something, we're still basically on the same team. We still want what's best for America, what's best for people. We want justice. We want goodness. Yeah. Why did the captain go down with the ship? To get to the bottom of the ocean? Because someone had tied him to it? To show off how Japanese he was and his disregard for his own life? Because Judy is heavier than a mountain, but death is lighter than a feather? Because it's his fetish, Tiny Man 66 says. Oh. The captain's fetish is to fap while drowning tied to his boat. His plan was to cut himself loose just in time, but the tragic accident. That trips me out. There's people who choke themselves. Masturbate. What? People are weird. Your NI answer is that it's better than getting beaten and eaten later by the angry crew on a deserted island. That's a good answer. And what if it wasn't the captain's fault? Maybe a sea monster sunk the ship. Have you thought about that, Sean O'Neill? Maybe it wasn't the captain's fault. Maybe it wasn't an iceberg this time.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of any other ships besides the Titanic crashing into icebergs?
No.
I've never either.
It's like such a strange.
Was that a one-time deal?
One-off.
Like, The iceberg's one claim to fame is crashing the Titanic, and it's it. It's a one-hit wonder.
It's kind of like the blimp that
And the Hindenburg.
Yeah, the Hindenburg.
There goes airships.
That's it.
Well, at least the Hindenburg has followed up with the Goodyear blimp.
Oh.
So we have a successful indication of flying without blowing up.
Yeah.
Now we have plenty of indications of ships sailing without crashing into icebergs, but do we have any indications of ships successfully crashing into icebergs and not crashing? Let's try it. Let's get an iceberg crashing ship and go crash into some icebergs. Who's in? I doubt it. Icebreakers. No. Boba Fett. Icebreakers are games you play when you're joining a large group for the first time together, like the beginning of a class or something. You've gotten that word all wrong. We'll play an icebreaker right now. Let's play count to 10. Okay, here's how you play count to 10. Any one of you can put the number 1 down. Then somebody else can put number 2, or the same person can put number 2. But the thing is, if 2 people put the same number, then you lose and you have to start over again. So, like, let's say Sean O'Neill was put 1 now. Well, even if I were to put it, okay, 1. Now, somebody else puts 2, but if 2 people put 2, you have to start over. We have to start over at 1. John put 1. The lag here in this makes it a special challenge. So we're at 1 again. We're still at 1. That's an icebreaker. It's an icebreaker I played one time. There's 2. Back at 1.
Back at 1.
Gen X Heel blew it. It's all Gen X Heel's fault. Let's break his back. 4. You skipped 3, Winston's mom. You guys are terrible at this. Terrible. You're losing. Wouldn't that be a shitty reality, Gen X Heel, if every time you did something wrong, somebody broke your back? Ouch. That would be a painful way to learn.
Did Gen X Heel start over again at 1?
Yeah, we're back at 1.
All right, we're at 1.
Try to get all the way to 10, okay? The thing is, obviously we've been watching plenty of anime. My dad comes out and says, "Hey, you're at 3. Good job, you guys." My dad comes out and says, "Do you keep watching the same cartoon over and over again?" And I say, No. There's a lot of them. Are they all in Japanese? Yes, they're all in Japanese. It's kind of hard to explain anime to my dad, but
yeah, he's like, "Oh, those cartoons from Japan who were drawn by Koreans." I was like, "I didn't know they were drawn by Koreans." Thanks for some new information, Mr. Strauss. Mr. Strauss.
I wanted to print Yamal on a t-shirt, so when people ask about it, I get to nerd out about how Yamal was one of the most impressive Soviet-era ships that threaded Arctic, the perfect icebreaker. Oh, on herself. Everybody shame on herself. Shame on you on herself. You blew it. You blew it. You blew it. You know why? Because you were proud about your knowledge of Yamal. Your pride. Pride comes before the fall on herself. It was your pride that caused that failure. What do you think about my answers? I like Tiny Man 66's answer best. That he has a fetish where he he fast while he's drowning with his ship, and he just forgot to cut himself loose in time, or failed to cut himself loose quite in time.
That is very FI.
Do you think people who do that, what is that called? It's called erotic self-asphyxiation.
Oh yeah.
In that instance, do you think that correlates with cognitive functioning? Do you think like certain types are more likely to do that? Oh, autoerotic asphyxiation. You think more like who died of that, right? Was the guy who was in Kung Fu, Michael Carradine. He died of that. I put a little bit more water in the aquarium so it wouldn't be quite so loud. I'm going to say probably ENFJ and ENTJ are most likely to engage in autoerotic asphyxiation because that's SI polar. I'm guessing. But Sean O'Neill says, no. It's TESE inferior. It's INFPs and ISFJs. You think so? I'm gonna say maybe it's SI third. Maybe it's INTPs and INFPs. Absolute value third slot SI.
Maybe.
Okay, I'm going to go INTPs and INFPs are your most likely autoerotic asphyxiators. I don't think Robin Williams died of that. Robin Williams committed suicide. I don't think he accidentally committed suicide.
Yeah, I don't think it was an accident either, unfortunately.
Whereas with David Carradine, it was probably an accident. Yeah. Corduroy Jackson from BoJack. Corduroy Jackson from BoJack. Is there somebody named Corduroy Jackson?
Corduroy was the dad.
Really? There's somebody named Corduroy in that show?
I don't know. Yeah, I think so.
That's funny because I named somebody Corduroy before I ever watched that show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's our
interesting.
Corduroy.
It shows you how NE works similarly. You know, it's like a lot of shows which are written by ENTPs.
Can we rewatch that show?
Yeah, we should.
At some point. It's so good.
It is good. Oh, the actor with BoJack on Secretariat.
Oh, yeah. I think that's the dad.
Corduroy Jackson. See, I also named a black guy Corduroy. So it just goes to show you that that's extroverted intuition / introverted intuition going. That's such a 70s black guy name, you know?
Yeah, I think BoJack Horseman's dad played Secretariat. That's why he was like always like trying to like impress his dad. That's why he went into like.
No, I think the black guy who co-starred in BoJack Horseman's dad.
Oh. See, I gotta watch it again.
Bo Jackson knows everything, Janexiel. That's why. Bo knows football. Bo knows baseball. And Bo knows BoJack Horseman.
Now, is it spelled B-O or B-E-A-U?
It's spelled B-O. Now, that's an interesting question. Very interesting question. Is B-O, Bo, short for anything? Is his full name Boring?
How funny would that be?
His name's Boring Jackson. ENTP women, where are they? There are very, very few. That is a good tweet of the day. How the fuck did a generation getting raised on South Park and Family Guy come so offended by everything? Chris M points out clearly his full name is Body Odor. That's why he goes with B-O or Bo. Kind of a cruel name. Body Odor Jackson. At Langley, we had a radar operator who died during autoerotica time alone during his midnight shift. When the morning shift arrived, he was hanging there with a magazine open at his feet, and the Soviets had invaded Poland. Thanks a lot, CIA perverts.
CIA perverts indeed.
Those damn CIA perverts that fail to prevent the imaginary Soviet invasion of Poland. What? It was already part of the Eastern Bloc? Oh, my bad. I wish I could make both my eyebrows go up like this.
Me too. How?
Oh, that would be menacing, huh?
It would be so menacing. Those eyebrows are so menacing.
Don't make me eyebrow menace you, I'd say.
The bad guy from Smurfs.
Gargamel.
You look like Gargamel.
And the cat's name is Israel.
How do you know?
Oh, Ismael. Ismael? I don't remember. But you may be having a Mandela effect moment. What were we talking about the Mandela effect the other day about? We were driving out Golden West.
And I know I brought up
we were right by Carl's Jr.'s.
Yep. And I remember being like, I don't care who and what anyone says, CP3O is gold. But I don't know what
the actual other thing was.
Yeah.
I said, well, that actually wouldn't be an example of the Mandela effect. That would be something slightly similar because blah, 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 blah. But I don't remember the specs. Isn't that weird? It's like, this is true for both me and Rachel. I think it had to do with 4th and 8th slot SI. So I can remember that we had a conversation regarding the Mandela effect. Rachel asked me if Mia would be an example of the Mandela effect. And I said, no, actually, that's similar, but it's a little different because Mandela effect is blah, 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 blah. And then we talked about C3PO being all gold or having a silver leg. What was the thing we were talking about? I don't remember, neither does she. Same thing with this hilarious joke I had the other morning. I said this would be a great way to begin a comedy routine.
Oh, yeah.
And I said the main joke and I sort of restated it. The second time I laughed as I was saying it. I remember standing right there doing it. I don't remember what the joke was. So
Maybe that's what comedians traditionally wrote down things in a journal or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I need to carry around a notebook with me. I have lots of good ideas that get lost because I don't write them down, and I've got shitty SI. Am I having Mandela about the Mandela effect? Maybe. The Mandela effect as it plays out with me is that I think everything has something to do with Nelson Mandela. Do you know that this box of cigarettes was once owned by Nelson Mandela? It's true.
Well, not to change the subject entirely, but that makes me think of the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
6.
6 degrees.
Have you guys looked into Bacon numbers at all?
Oh my gosh, it's so fun.
It's really hard to find any celebrity from 1950 on who has a higher Bacon number than 3. It's very hard to find a 6. We haven't ever been able to find anything higher than a 3. And we're talking about like Greta Garbo is a 3, has a Bacon number of 3.
Yeah.
A Bacon number is how far away you are from Kevin Bacon in Hollywood by movies that you've both been in. It's crazy. It's surprising. He's really prolific.
Yeah. I mean, I guess when he said, "I've worked with everyone in the business,"
and that's the interesting thing is he came up with the idea halfway. So, in other words, he said, "I've either worked with everyone in Hollywood or I've worked with someone who's worked with them." And then some college kids came up with this game, 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, which is a pun off of the 6 degrees of separation concept, which says everybody in the world can be connected with no more than 6 degrees of separation. But the Berenstain Bears got me too.
Oh, that's what we were talking about.
Well, that was after we talked about C-3PO. That was not the thing we originally were talking about, though.
But we were talking about the Berenstain Bears.
So anyway, I was the same way with the Berenstain Bears, like Synchronic. My friend Corey has a T-shirt that says Berenstain Bears. That's spelled the way it should be spelled or whatever. If I went into your typology bar and ordered an ENTP cocktail, what would you get? Well, you'd get a cocktail that the bartender makes up on the spot. So, okay, well, let's see. What might go good together? So it would really depend, right? It depends on your ENTP bartender. Like I'd go, let me take a look at you, Sean O'Neill. You look a little bit like a melon guy. I'm going to go Midori. I happen to have honeydew juice sitting around, so this is convenient. I'm going to go Midori. I'm going to go honeydew juice. Midori's not very strong, so I'm going to add a little bit of, what do you call it? Triple sec, because that tends to be like an additive liquor, right? So I just add a little triple sec in there. Maybe a dash of absolute vodka. And I'll put a little bit of orange juice in there and a little bit of bitters. And I'll muddle like a piece of I'll muddle a cherry at the bottom. And then that's it. And then put some ice on it. I mean, put that over some ice, you know. There you go. It's called an ENTP melon. Tell me what you think. That doesn't sound so bad, right? That doesn't sound too bad. You could probably drink that.
Yeah.
Now, it's safe to give you an ENTP melon. If you were a big boob chick like Rachel, that would be way too flirtatious. If I were to say, you look like a melon loving person.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
Something about you reminds me of melons. What if the Mandela effect was a psyop to stop social change? It would be an ineffective psyop? Which kind of social change would you like to stop?
People from believing that Kazam was a movie.
Kazam was a movie.
Yeah, but Mandela effect, it's like starting to fade out.
It's starting to fade out?
Yeah, they're saying it wasn't called that. It was like Shazam.
Oh, it is called Shazam, isn't it?
It is Shazam, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's part of the Mandela effect.
I mean, some people say it was called Kazam.
Yeah, or something. Yeah. I I forget, but it's definitely on there. And I remember Shazam as a kid.
Shazam is right. I think. Yeah.
I don't remember, but it's Shaq as like a genie.
Oh, Shaq, that one.
Yeah.
No, that's Kazam, right?
Okay, that is Shazam. Okay. As part of the Mandela effect. I saw a video.
Why? Because they say it used to be called Shazam?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think it used to be called Kazam. Oh, Sinbad. Is Rachel talking about Sinbad?
Oh, Sinbad. Yeah. Wow, I'm all messed up. Yeah, Sinbad.
Your guess is the change accelerated to critical speed, and when it passed it, their minds couldn't cope anymore, so they went loopy. You're talking about Republicans? I mean, I don't think Republicans went loopy in general. I think that there's been an increasing polarization, and both camps tend to go tend to increasingly reduce the legitimacy of the other side. It seems to me that the so-called left is kind of winning the argument right now, but it's crazy to think that it's like they're no less insane than the right. No, we're going to have three parties soon, Genexial. Right, left, and correct. Correct is not center. Let me make that clear. I am a correctness, not a centrist. It is a fallacy to assume that the middle ground is always preferable. People on the so-called right are correct about certain things. People on the so-called left are correct about certain things. The problem is this. It tends to be the left is correct about the frame and the right is correct about the actuality. So it's like it is a good thing to frame things in terms of equality and justice, and to frame things in terms of not allowing people to be treated unfairly for irrelevant reasons like skin color and stuff. Those are genuinely important concerns, And at the same time, we need to adopt the principles of those concerns concurrently with the actuality of those concerns. So the principle of those concerns rejects fighting fire with fire, so to speak, and that's the problem that the left has, is they keep wanting to fight fire with fire. In other words, their wrongdoing isn't justified by someone else's wrongdoing. What kind of jokes do any seeking chicks like? Well, any jokes, I guess. Wackiness. Surprise. I mean, the thing about jokes is the best jokes are always surprising in a delightful way. I mean, the thing is, what will be called the right in 20 years will be a different thing. There'll still be a division. There'll still be a fundamental division between people who embrace change as a default and people who reject change as a default. Both positions are wrong. So, but nevertheless, people are subject to those particular kinds of wrongness. I gotta go because I'm feeling in pain and uncomfortable right now. So thanks for being here, everybody. And I'll talk to you later. No, Gen X, it doesn't work like that. Remember something, Gen X Heel. Progressives are just as responsible for the war on poverty and the war on drugs as they are for, civil rights movement.